Crysis is the most stunningly beautiful game we've ever seen, but beyond that, it's a pretty fantastic shooter. Solid weapons, intelligent enemies, fairly open level design mixed with the nanosuit powers to make this one of the more entertaining ballistics showdowns in quite some time. The fact that developer Crytek has figured out how to create a story that doesn't drip with pungent cheese helped us immerse ourselves even more in the experience. Voice acting is pretty good, the in-game cutscenes are also good, and the aliens are menacing instead of campy like the Trigens from Far Cry. Crytek has obviously learned a lot about presentation and storytelling from their first game. If they hadn't pulled a Halo 2 at the end, I would have been totally pleased with the progression. As with 2004's Far Cry, Crysis takes place on a picturesque island paradise lush with vegetation and surrounded by gorgeous blue water. The impressive visuals are so far beyond Far Cry's that it's hard to even comprehend what Crytek, given another few years in development, will be able to come up with. It's not only the technical aspects that are impressive though, it's also the detail of the models, architecture, and textures. Thankfully, the art team was given the chance to expand their horizons from the simple jungles to include the spectacularly disorienting insides of an alien ship, and an ice-blasted mountainside dominated by the oppressive peak hiding the same alien menace. There's not as much emotion here, but the very slightly cartoony style allows for a suspension of disbelief that sidesteps the creepy Beowulf effect. One thing that you're going to have to seriously consider before purchasing this game, specifically for the visuals, is the power of your PC. Crysis can kick your computer's ass at very high settings. It'll look spectacular doing so, but it'll also occasionally turn into more of a slideshow than you probably prefer. On our Vista test machine with a quad-core processor, 4GB of RAM, and a single 8800 GTX, we had some pretty significant slowdowns with everything on very high. Tweaking the settings in DirectX 10 helped a bit, while running the game in DirectX 9 solved all of our problems and still looks spectacular. Luckily, Crysis on medium settings even looks good. Thankfully, the gameplay in Crysis, while not quite equal to the visuals, is also well worth the while. Crytek manages to make you really feel like a badass thanks to the high-tech nanosuit, which has 4 settings to help with many situations. Armor, which will help you get through straight-up firefights and absorb more damage. Speed, which will help you zip around the environment and flank enemies immediately and then run away when in trouble. Strength, which is good for jumping to high places, steadying aim, and beating the crap out of enemies. And Stealth, which we probably use most in our time with Crysis single player and allows you to cloak for a short amount of time. Each ability is balanced by how quickly it uses the suit's power reserve, which adds some strategy to each situation. Levels are designed with all the powers in mind, and with an amount of freedom pretty comparable to Far Cry's. While the game is linear for the story's sake, it's not a corridor shooter. There's a lot of wiggle room when it comes to tactics and approaches to killing enemies. The AI in Crysis isn't perfect, but it is pretty damn good. The occasional clumping of human enemies does happen, but you'll also see patrols try their best to flank you and stay spread out while they hunt you down. Most of the single player will be spent on the ground in your nanosuit in the jungle, but there are some welcome moments where you'll command a tank, an airship, and of course commandeer any number of vehicles from the Koreans. The single player of Crysis, while similar to Far Cry in setting and core gameplay ideas, is most definitely a well-paced and exciting experience that deserves to be played. Thankfully, multiplayer isn't useless either. While only 2 modes are available, both team-based players and deathmatch lovers will have some action to enjoy. The team-based mode, Power Struggle, can have a higher learning curve for its complication, though once you understand the premise and coordinate with your teammates to complete specific goals, it does get pretty exciting. The fact that you can purchase miniguns, freeze rays, and tactical nuclear weapons only adds to the craziness. Of course, in both modes, powers are still available, though the suit regenerates at a much slower rate to balance out gameplay a little better. Overall, Crysis is definitely another win for Crytek. They've created some amazing technology and some fast and fun gameplay with enough options to allow players to use their own style of attack. It's scalable enough that many gamers will be able to play it on some setting, even if it isn't the best, and have a good amount of fun doing it.